being loud is my issue, so as long as you can hear. But we are so honored to be here. And just as you can see from our title slide, we have put together a presentation for you entitled Empowering Healthy Aging and Longevity, the Role of Exercise and Nutrition in Aging Gracefully and Maintaining an Active, Joyful Lifestyle. First, let us all introduce ourselves. So my name is Tim Hanway. I'm an assistant professor of practice of exercise science.
My name is Jacqueline Beatty. I'm assistant professor of nutrition.
And my name is Joanne Rivard. I'm an associate professor of practice and physical therapy.
So we are just so excited, like I said, to just share just some of our own expertise, some of our experience, and also just describe and discuss something that's near and dear to all of us. But before we get to teach you all about that, we want to learn a little bit about you. We want to get a sense of kind of what your thoughts are, what your perceptions are when it comes to healthy aging, nutrition, the role of exercise. So yeah, we put together a little online poll. If folks want to indulge, you can actually pull out your phone and scan a little QR code. It's really cool. This will actually populate, but we're okay to do it old school too. We'd love for you to just kind of hold your hands up as well. So let's do whatever you want. If you want to indulge in the technology, go for it. You'll see this actually populate in real time. But let's just start off with a simple poll. And like I said, judgment-free zone. I tell my students that always. So it does not matter. But just hold your hand up if you would say that when it comes to your nutritional needs and aging, how knowledgeable do you feel you are? So how many folks feel that they are very knowledgeable when it comes to nutrition? All right, quite a few. And I know yesterday we had some nutritionists who have graduated from this program. I believe someone from the class of 1955, which was incredible. So yes, I know some are quite knowledgeable. How many would say that they're somewhat knowledgeable? Okay, that's pretty much a majority. What about neutral? I know a little bit, not so much. Anybody that would, by their own perceptions, not as knowledgeable? Well, like I said, it looks like just taking that quick little poll, we're between somewhat knowledgeable and very knowledgeable. Okay, but now I know that I have a pretty knowledgeable group. So now I get to test you a little bit. So what nutrient do you think is the most important for healthy aging? So you have a selection, multiple choice. Protein, carbohydrates, dietary fats, or vitamins and minerals. How many would say protein? Smart group. All right. Dietary fats. Vitamins and minerals. Okay. Quite a few. Good stuff. All right. Shifting focus to more exercise and physical activity, just getting a gauge of how physically active you perceive yourselves to be. So how many of you would say that you engage in some form of physical activity daily? You got an active group. All right. Several times a week. Fantastic. Once a week. Perfect. Rarely or never. And that's okay too. Like I said, never for time. You're around. That's okay. That's why you're here to learn.
Physical activity.
Nearly there. It counts. All right. And then, because quite a few of you, of course, are quite active, well, which type of exercise do you prefer? How many like to do walking? Okay. Yoga or any type of movements like that? Fantastic. All right. Strength or resistance training? Fantastic. Okay. Aerobics. And of course, miscellaneous. So this could be pickleball activities, pickleball, and pickleball bars. Okay. Now, a better understanding of who you are, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Jackie. She's going to discuss all about the importance of nutrition.
Thank you, thank you. And do we have any graduates from the nutrition program in the room now? Oh, okay. I was hoping to meet. I had heard some wonderful things, so just wanted to check in. So sorry for the words here, not as fun as an active poll. But this is to just kind of remind us like what happens as we're getting to be older and as we start to age. There's sort of like a cumulative effect. So all the stuff we've had to deal with our whole lives are like kind of catching up a little bit. So these can be things like chronic disease. So if anyone has diabetes or cardiovascular disease or high blood pressure, over time, those things tend to build up and cause additional stress on the body. And then certainly lifestyle habits, anything like smoking or excess alcohol intake or a less than healthy diet or a more sedentary lifestyle. These are all things that kind of catch up with us the older we get. This is a lovely graph, and our students do love visual graphs, so I wanted to make sure that we kept it real for all of you today. But these lines basically represent, this is estimated energy requirements for men and women. So the men are in the blue and the women are more the orange, red. And you can see over the course of time, when we're starting with around in our 20s and 30s, and then all the way up to 80s, 90s, up to 100, you can see that slowly the energy requirements just kind of decrease. And so if we're still eating the same amount, or if we're still engaging in an unhealthy diet, then those things tend to catch up. And hormonally, we also have some changes that kind of happen no matter what we do. We have changes in increased fat mass, decreased lean muscle mass, but we're going to talk a lot about that today with some exercise. And sometimes digestive issues kind of interfere. So how many of you would say that you eat more than you did when you were, say, in your 20s and 30s? Okay. How many of you would say you eat less than? Okay. And how many would say you eat probably about the same? Okay, very good. So the data shows that over time, people tend to eat a little bit less as they age, but nutrient needs do not go down. Like, we still really need all of the important things like protein and calcium and vitamin D and vitamin B12. And so sometimes there's a need for a nutrition supplement, but the rule of thumb is food first all the time. Your body can assimilate nutrients so much better from food. There are properties in foods, whole foods, that we don't even really completely understand. So when you kind of try to crush up vitamins and minerals and put them in a pill, you're missing so much of the organic compound nature of the food that helps you absorb it and really creates a more dynamic, vibrant phase of health. So this brings me to protein. And how do y'all feel about protein? I know that when Tim asked you about how many of you think that protein is the most important, we had a lot of hands up. Can anybody tell me why? Yes.
I would have thought a decrease in protein due to the fact that your kidneys don't process protein the same way they did when you were younger.
So yeah, that is a common thought. That's definitely something that we kind of have heard a lot about over the course of the last few decades, right? But the truth is, if you are eating an adequate amount of protein to support your lean muscle mass, and you don't have any history of kidney, so acute kidney failure or renal insufficiency is something that you might have heard. If you don't have any of those, we don't have any reason why we should worry about extra protein, because it doesn't damage the kidneys. It's only if you have renal issues to begin with that you might have to modify your protein intake. And in fact, it is so important. The older we get, I would argue that the more important it is, because we want to have a vibrant, joyful, healthy life. And we want you to be as functional as possible. And the best possible way to do that, aside from movement, is to engage in eating whole, healthy foods and good sources of protein. And not just like have, fruit at breakfast and, maybe, a salad at lunch with a piece of bread, and then maybe have like a burger for dinner or some chicken. We want you to have protein all of your meals. Every single meal that you have should have some good source of protein. And this is why my words will show you, it helps to maintain muscle mass. It helps to maintain your bone mineral density, which is super important. It also helps maintain your immunity. And when is that more important than in this post-COVID era? And then liver function. We need our liver to help metabolize all of the foods and keep our blood sugar where it needs to be. And protein helps to maintain your liver function, not to mention hormones. And those are pretty important. So this is the deal. And this kind of comes from that whole argument that kidneys can be damaged by excess protein. First of all, definitely not actually true. And second of all, what has been historically recommended is this kind of moderate amount of protein, so 0.8 grams per kilogram. So if you all took your body weight and divided it by 2.2, you would have your kilogram weight. And then it says 0.8 times your kilogram body weight is how much protein. And guess what? That is not enough for all of you. That's not enough for me. It's not enough for these guys. It's not enough for all of you. And actually, the research now shows that it should be at least twice that much, 1.5 grams per kilogram, and maybe even up to 2 grams. So think about that. What does that even look like? If we have a body weight of 175 pounds, that would be almost 80 kilograms. That would mean the RDA, that 0.8 amount, would be 64 grams a day. And it's really not enough. And actually, the research shows that most of us aren't even getting that much. So this is why people have breakdowns in muscle tissue and lose functionality, because they're just not getting enough nutrition. And it's just so important. So if we were to use this example of a 175-pound person, they would need like 100 to 125 grams of protein per day. And that's a lot. That's like, who's overwhelmed by that? Anybody? Yeah, like what, how do you even do that?
Yeah.
Right?
And the thing is, okay.
Here we go. And we're gonna share these slides with all of you as well. So this just breaks it down. It's really not as difficult as you might assume. And I get really overwhelmed by big numbers too, so I totally get it. But if you have a chicken breast, and let's face it, in restaurants, nothing is 3 ounces anymore. So like 3 ounces of protein from a chicken breast, that automatically knocks out 25, 26 grams right there. So usually if you go to a restaurant, you're gonna have probably closer to six ounces of chicken in a serving. So there you've got 50 right there. Same thing with turkey. How many fish eaters do we have in the room? Yeah, that's so good for so many reasons. Protein is a very big reason. And so Greek yogurt, so this is tricky too, because if you go to the supermarket, you're gonna see all kinds of fancy labels on yogurt, like light and fit and 60 calories. Don't buy it, don't do it. Go for the Greek yogurt because it's got more protein, and get what's on sale because it doesn't matter. The brands don't matter. You just get the Greek yogurt that's on sale. This is just plain Greek yogurt, and that has a cup has 23 grams of protein. And like even if you have lactose intolerance or issues like around dairy, oftentimes people who consume Greek yogurt are able to metabolize it no problem because of the active cultures in the yogurt. It starts to break down some of the lactose. So give it a try. And that's a great snack, a great protein. Lentils and quinoa. Do we have any bean lovers in the room? So yes, so these are, does anybody have an air fryer?
No.
No. Okay, right. So here's a trick. Take a can of chickpeas, rinse them, put a little bit of seasoning like chili powder or, pepper, Mrs. Dash. Pop them in the air fryer for like 5 minutes. You're gonna have a crispy, high protein snack that's delicious and will give you fiber and will satisfy you. And then you don't even need the potato chips, which don't have protein, by the way. And then, let's talk about eggs. Egg eaters in the room. Who removes the yolk from their eggs and just has egg whites?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. The yolk has really important
Yeah.
nutrients, including vitamin D. So definitely eat, you don't have to limit the amount of eggs that you have anymore. Just boil them, make some hard-boiled eggs in the morning and grab one and add it to your lunch and have one before you go to bed. There's just so many ways, if you can kind of think about it and plan to have some of these, and this is just the beginning, like there's so much more than this. Cottage cheese, if anybody likes nuts or almonds, cashews, those are pine nuts are a great way to just kind of, if you're doing like a stir fry with some chicken and some frozen vegetables, a little teriyaki sauce and pine nuts or cashews, and there you have like a beautiful protein meal. Yes.
What's the latest research on red meat?
The latest research on red meat is that it's really not something that we should eat on a daily basis. So red meat consumption has been linked to cancers, colon cancer, breast cancer. However, that's not to say that you shouldn't have it. And I'm actually a supporter of animal sources of protein because they have a complete set of amino acids. So all of the poultry and the fish are such good sources of protein and all these minerals. It's just the compounds in the red meat that historically, thinking about if anybody grew up in the 1950s, I know my parents talk about it all the time. They would just have like ground red beef in the pan, and that was like the dinner. Burgers everywhere, right? So that's the kind of a habit that gets you into trouble because we don't want to have it on a regular basis. Once in a while, great. Once every 2 weeks, perfect. It's going to give you iron. Once a month, even better.
Once every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So back to the eggs, so the connection between eggs and cholesterol, not to worry about it?
Not to worry about it, not to worry about it. It's actually, cholesterol gets a bad rap, but cholesterol doesn't raise your cholesterol. How crazy is that? It's saturated fat that raises your cholesterol. And red meat is one of those main sources of saturated fat, so.
If you do like a tenderloin, something that's known to be leaner, does
Yeah.
that make it?
Filet.
Like,
Yeah, it is. So my son just turned 22 and we took him to the Longhorn Steakhouse. And it was his treat, right? I mean, his choice, our treat. So we took him there. And so he ordered a filet mignon, which is a very lean. My husband wanted to get the ribeye. And I leaned over and said, I just want to point out. It's Shannon, we've been married for 25 years. When it says marbling.
whatever.
That means like Wagyu, like really bad?
What's that?
Wagyu is the really, really bad? Wagyu.
Wagyu.
Wagyu burger.
Japanese.
So if you get a leaner, like the 93% lean ground beef is a better choice.
Yeah, so when we like off the list.
Yeah, is that like 80%?
Oh, it's like 80%.
Yeah.
They go to these cows so that they're like mostly white and very little pink on the actual meat.
Oh, you're trying to give me a heart attack. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's super.
Yeah, so no, Greek yogurt on sale. And even better, pound chicken and
Did your husband order the ribeye?
And
I'm not gonna answer that. Okay, I'm taking too much time, but I just wanted to, this is the timing of it, so make sure that you're not saving it all for your dinner meal, that you're not having it just at lunch, make sure you're having protein throughout the day. Making sure you have some at breakfast is a really good start. And does anybody skip breakfast?
raise your hand.
Okay, like,
My first meal is lunch, so I get up late.
you get up late.
But it's breakfast.
So that's breakfast for you.
That's breakfast.
Really? Yeah, yeah. But even if it's like something little, like a soft granola bar with some protein, or, you know, a half a cup of Greek yogurt with like some chocolate chips in it even, you know, blueberries, banana slices, mandarin oranges, it's just a really good idea. And so aim for 30 grams per meal. That's what I want you to do. Okay. Yeah, and then this is just some more information about animal studies having an increased risk. So this is more to your question about the red meat, but really making sure you have, so this is my takeaway for the nutrition piece. So I want you to remember perfect takeaway tips, and I know that I didn't get a chance to talk as much as I would like about fiber and vitamins and minerals, but essentially eating the whole food is gonna give you all of that. So plenty of nutrient-rich foods, eat protein from muscle, reduce your salt intake, get Mrs. Dash, for real, like just lose the salt and get Mrs. Dash, yeah.
I'm gonna recommend Penzies. Have you ever heard of the Penzi spice?
Oh,
And they have a lot of salt-free options.
that's wonderful.
And you can do it online, whether there's a place in Watertown or something. The stuff is amazing, and as a foodie, it did not affect taste at all.
Oh,
It's Penzie.
Or maybe a Y, I'm not sure. Yeah, but anyway, my husband's cardiologist, we told them about it. No, I mean, somebody gave it to us as a gift when he had a heart problem. And now I'm recommending it to anybody I know.
Oh, that's
because it really is good, and there's a variety of seasonings.
Okay, that's so, I'm gonna add that to my list of recommendations. Yes.
Splenda, saccharin, every day I have Splenda in my coffee.
So
EY.
it's fine.
Is it better to have sugar?
It's not better to have sugar. Like, if you can reduce the amount that you need, that's gonna be better. But I get it, like, I like sweeteners too, and it's okay. But if you do it in moderation, whether it's Splenda or a little bit of sugar, it's okay. Yeah. So fruits and vegetables, whole greens to get fiber. Anytime you can eat with a friend, that's gonna like lift up your heart. Anytime you can eat with someone else, it's gonna, it's socialization is such an important part. And then, for those of you who aren't big meat eaters or animal source protein, vitamin B12 is something that's really, really important. And it's really hard to get enough if you're not having enough good animal sources of protein. So with that, you would want to chat with your doctor. And that's it. I think I'm way over.
Yes, all of them. Yeah, maybe it's sort of generational. What are you teaching to your vegan students about all of this?
So this is the thing, so, yes. And there is nothing like whole foods. So you keep hearing me say that, and we're talking about protein and fiber, but a plant-based diet is truly a healthy choice. The thing that's tricky about it is it takes a lot of knowledge and planning to do it correctly. So you could have, like, I could have my 14-year-old daughter say, you know what, Mom, I love animals and I'm not gonna eat them anymore. And I would say, that's great. So let's sit down. We have to take a few hours to kind of look at all the nutrients that these animal products were providing you, and we have to figure out how to get them. And you can do it because all plant sources of protein have amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks of protein. The thing that's cool about an animal source like chicken, any poultry, eggs, is it has all of the amino acids. But if you had lentils, they're gonna be missing a couple. If you have rice, they're gonna be missing a couple. So you've gotta make sure that you like have these combinations and you're not like just eating French fries and, you know,
Salad.
chickpeas even, you know? So it just takes a lot of planning, and I would just absolutely say, go to talk to a registered dietitian if someone is planning to be vegan, because they really do need that. And doctors don't have to take a nutrition class.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So I'm sure you all love your physicians, but anybody who really wants good, solid nutrition advice, I think they'll do it. Yeah.
You mentioned at the 2 grams of protein per kilogram, I would need about 140 per day.
Yeah.
But the military experiment said only about 25 grams per meal can be absorbed. So 3 meals is 75. What happens to the other 70 or 65 grams of protein? Does it get absorbed or not?
So protein is an interesting biochemical story. When you eat it, it actually, your body breaks it down through your, like everything from your stomach, through your small intestine. You have all these enzymes and things breaking down the protein into amino acids. And then they go into something called the amino acid pool. And from there, your body decides through this whole process with messenger RNA and transfer RNA to like which amino acids to take and to string together to build. So if I need more hormones, then my body's gonna say, okay, we're gonna take these amino acids. You do digest and absorb what you need. And then anything else is just stored. It's eventually stored as fat if you don't. Same thing with carbohydrate, protein, fat, whatever you eat that you're not using is gonna just happily be stored as fat. And that's because it's a survival mechanism. It's to protect us in case we had to go a long time without eating. So does that answer your question?
So it's not going down the drain.
It's not. It's absolutely not. Yeah.
What about regular yogurt? You mentioned Greek yogurt. What about regular?
Regular yogurt is great. It's a good source of vitamin D. It's a good source of calcium. It's a decent source of protein, but Greek yogurt has so much more protein that I don't even want to waste my time with regular yogurt. Like, why bother, you know? It's like the silver medal.
Go to the presentation.
Any other questions before I hand it over? Yes.
I think we're seeing a trend toward the ideal, which is to have something that's made for you and is good for you. We're seeing that. It's a good example of Beyond Burger, which is meat imitator.
Yeah.
It tastes like beef and has the texture of beef. It's a little expensive, but it's throwing away. You're talking about those of us who cook, those of us who don't.
Yeah.
There are going to be so many manufactured foods in the village.
Yeah, so the rule of thumb is there are so many processed foods, right? So many foods that are like made for us or that are pre-made and that we can kind of heat up to make it easy. If you can still tolerate the whole food, if you can still tolerate fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, chicken that you buy, at a grocery store that isn't pre-processed into like chicken nuggets and then frozen in the, or even in like a lean cuisine or something like that. If you can buy the whole food and cook the whole food and consume that, that is so much better for you. Because when they process foods and make them shelf stable, they have to add stuff. They have to add chemicals and they have to add things that are gonna make them last longer before they're used. And we don't really know like where that stuff goes, what really is getting into our bodies, where if you have the whole food, you're not losing the benefit of all of those phytochemicals and all of those compounds that come in the food that are supposed to help us be healthy. So, white bread, processed, bran removed, no fiber. Whole grain bread, everything's still intact. It's baked and it's made, but the bran is still there, the fiber is still there. That's what makes our gut happy. And you know how important gut is, right? Super, super important. So I think that's really the main message.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Suggestions for, I've got a couple of beige eaters in my household.
Yeah.
Do you have some suggestions on ways to sneak some fiber in?
So a lot of fiber foods are beige, like, do you think like whole grain, like is that
No,
off the
I
table?
kind of know what the supposed to be eating diet is.
Okay,
I'm having a really hard time getting any of those things into that.
okay.
So I need to sneak it in.
Oh, okay.
Like, is popcorn fiber?
Yes.
Okay, that's one on the list.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then, just try new things like, the chickpeas and quinoa's of complete protein, that's a plant source. There's very few of those, but they're really good. Anything, and like, is it like a child or?
Well, at this point, I can't call him a child because he's growing up.
Okay.
He's been subsisting on like white bread and, nothing for about 13 years.
They make a whole grain white bread too.
Oh.
Yeah, so look for that.
That Dave's killing.
Yeah.
I know Dave's killing.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. No, what's the? Board, we have to talk about the exercise part of it and the physical activity. And I like physical activity better than exercise sometimes because we do a lot of physical activity without necessarily having it be at the YMCA. It's about how active you are from the time you get up until the time you go to bed at night. And there's a lot of ways to do that. So what I would like to do today is just talk about the most important types of exercise so that you can kind of reflect and go, am I including stuff like that? Like if I like to go for long walks 4 times a week, that's awesome. But is that giving me the resistive exercise that I need for my muscles? And is that giving me the flexibility that I need to perform all my daily activities for as long as possible? So that's what we want to target. So I could take a list like that and I could extend it and add a million things to it. Improving your cardiovascular health, your bone health, your strength and flexibility, and fall prevention. But at the end of the day, it's about quality of life. It's about getting up every morning and going, today I can go to work, or I can go see my grandchildren, or I can go volunteer, or I can go on a trip to Italy, whatever I want to do today. And I'm going to enjoy myself. And to be able to do that really has been demonstrated in the literature to require physical activity. If you're just starting, if this is something that is relatively new, a new type of exercise, then a couple of suggestions. consult with your primary care provider, your nurse practitioner, your doctor, your PA, whoever you regularly see. So that you can get a handle on cardiovascular, like what's your normal heart rate, what's going to be your target heart rate when you exercise. You want to get that bone mineral density scan to see if you have any issues with osteopenia or osteoporosis. Doesn't mean you shouldn't exercise. In fact, more reason to exercise, but it's good to see where you stand. It's also great to go over all of your medications. Do a medication reconciliation, especially if you have more than one provider. If you have a cardiologist and an orthopedist and a neurologist, you need someone to sit down and go over the whole kit and caboodle and see if there are any side effects, if mixing any of these meds causes any change in your heart rate, changing your blood pressure, changing the things that will be influenced with exercise. Are you taking anything over the counter? Just be honest and say, this is what I'm doing. Or if you're not taking them, if you take them once in a while, but you're supposed to take them 3 times a day, just be honest so that you get a good baseline. That way they'll know, and you'll know if you have any precautions to what you're going to be doing. And if you are starting a new program, this always reminds me of January 2nd. You get a piece of equipment on January 2nd, get onto the treadmill or the elliptical or the ladder. No, because it's so crowded with everybody who's making their New Year's resolution. And they're in there 7 days a week, and they're on every piece of equipment, and they're going at it. This is the year. By Valentine's Day. The place is empty again, all right? Because they started too fast. They got bored, they got frustrated, they didn't want to keep doing the same thing, or they got hurt because they went at it too hard, even with the best intentions. So it's something new. Just start slowly. Because there are a couple of basic tenets with exercise. You have to keep doing it. You have to stick with it. 2 weeks doesn't do it. You want to find things that you love, things that you enjoy, things that you'll keep at. It doesn't have to be one thing. I don't want to go on the treadmill every day if it bores me to death. I want to find something that I will enjoy. If it's pickleball, great, go out there and play pickleball. Every tennis court in my community within 50 miles is now a pickleball court. Whatever it is that you enjoy, and mix it up. But you have to keep doing it and you have to progress it. So go at it slowly. And know that there's a bunch of people out here who can give you advice like personal trainers and exercise and dance instructors, physical therapists. We're all out here. And you just need to know that you have questions and you will be happy. Not just to help you start a program, because it's okay to start a program, but how do I progress the program? So a month from now, what should I be doing? And how can I make it harder? And how can I challenge it, or how can I mix it up? Because that's what's going to keep you doing it. If you get bored with it, then that treadmill is going to hang your laundry. And that's what it's going to be used for, right? In the basement, and you'll never use it. When we bought a recumbent bike during the pandemic, I told my husband it's going in the living room, and that's still where it is. Oh my God, it's the living room. I'm like, yep, but we use it every day because it's there. Does it match the sofa? But it's so easy to access. And if it's 3:30 in the morning and I'm like a night crawler since menopause, then you know what? I can jump on it then. I don't have to wait, whatever works for you is what's important. What you want to take a look at in terms of your activities, whether it's physical activity or formal exercise, are you including these 4 components? Are you including something that's strengthening or resistance? Are you including flexibility or stretching? You want to be able to reach everything. Are you including balance? And are you including something that's cardiorespiratory or cardiopulmonary in your kind of weekly activities? So I just want to show you a couple of examples of these things so that you can kind of ask again yourself, am I doing this? Well, we heard from Jackie that muscles are going to get smaller as we age. It didn't start last year. It started when you were about 30. And so your muscle mass continues to get smaller unless we have a good diet and we exercise. That's the best way of working on it. been demonstrated in the literature over and over again. And we need those strong muscles to help keep you going, to help you do the daily things you want to do. So how do you do it? Well, first of all, I'm going to go from the bottom here. I have to do this 2 or 3 times a week. It doesn't have to be every day. Every other day would be good, but at least twice. And you need to stay with it because it's a few months before you see changes in muscle strength. So staying with it, number one. When I'm doing these kind of exercises, it has to progress. So I can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. If I want to do it with free weights, and I take this weight and I can do 2 sets of 15 with this amount of weight, and I can keep good form. I don't have to do this kind of stuff, and I don't want to do anything like that. I can do it beautifully, and I can get through those 2 sets. And the last few reps were as easy as the first few, easy peasy. This isn't enough. It didn't challenge your muscles. So resistance training is about challenging your muscles. Okay? So if I look at this RM stands for rep max. If I find out that this is the most I can lift one time, then I'm going to take a percentage of that. Maybe I'll start with even 40 or 50% of that. That's what I'm going to do my sets with. And maybe the last 3 or 4 are a challenge, but I can do them without cheating, right? Without losing my form, without doing all kinds of crazy things. When I find that that's easy, I know I need more weight and I bring it up a notch, right? And I don't go from 5 pounds to 10 pounds. I'll go and add 8 pounds and I'll do it gradually, whether it's free weights or kettlebells or whatever type of resistance you want to use for it, right? So there are different types. I can do this with free weights. I can do it with cables and pulleys at the Y or at plant. I can use the resistance bands or resistance tubing, right? Multicolors, right? What the color is for resistance depends on the company. This company is TheraBand. Easy to get them at the, Amazon.
Yes.
I don't know if CVS, but Walmart has stuff like that. Usually, like the lighter colors are easier. Like yellow is usually the starter, and I don't have black with me, but black's usually the heavy. But the company will tell you. Sometimes they throw in pink and purple just to mess with us. Like they all should just have the same colors. And they might be bands like this, or they might be tubes like this. But you know what? I can work my major muscle groups, like muscles that use my arms, lift my shoulders, my quads to get up and down from a chair, my glutes, climb those stairs. I can do all of that with resistance bands. They can go with me anywhere. I can go to South Carolina with this in my suitcase, and it is not going to be a problem, right? It's light, it doesn't take up room in your house, and you can progress through the different types of resistance with bands and tubing and stuff like that. So that's a great option. You also have body weight. So if I'm standing there at the kitchen counter waiting for that chicken to come out of the oven, right? Maybe I could do something like some heel raises. And that's working my calf muscles, which I need for walking. And maybe that's too easy and I don't have a weight, so I'm going to grab a jug of juice. I'm going to grab something that gives me some resistance because it's too easy, right? Or I could be doing some of my mini squats while I'm waiting for that chicken to cook. I can use my body weight, right? I can do some modified push-ups to work on my elbow and my shoulder muscles. You can use your body. When you go to a bar class, which is like with the ballet bar, that's what they're doing. They're using body weight in order to increase strength while working posture, core strength, range of motion. They're beautiful classes. Something that's very low impact. So if you've got some arthritis in your back or in your hips or your knees, that's a really good low impact kind of option. So those types of programs are coming more and more out there. Yeah.
I just have a question about the difference between adding repetitions as opposed to adding weight.
That's a great question. If you're adding repetitions, you're doing it more for power. And that's another aspect of muscle that we work on strength, but also you might want to work on power and endurance. So if you're adding reps and you're not adding the resistance, you're doing it for power so that you get more endurance as well. The next thing that you want to make sure you're working on is flexibility, right? And with flexibility, it's a use it or lose it, right? Because as we get older, connective tissue can get stiffer, so it gets harder to stretch those muscles out. And the cartilage in our joints can have some wear and tear. That's what osteoarthritis is, right? So all that's happening sometimes. You want to keep your joints moving as far as they can go. Not to the point of pain, but to the end range. Whether it's the first thing in the morning or after you get out of the shower, what do all your joints do? And then also think about, and I'm guilty of this by not having y'all stand up already, is think about how long you're sitting in this position during your day. Your knees are bent, your hips are bent, your spine is bent. Then you want to go to get up. Okay, I got it. You watch the movie and you're on a slow sofa, and it takes a minute now. So you get everything back where it was. Or you went to the movie theater or something, it's like, oh. Because your muscles are behind the joints are getting shorter and your knees, the muscles in your hips are getting shorter and your knees are stiff and your hips are stiff. Right? So like every half hour, Yep.
Is there any way to make your connective tissue more elastic?
Taking it through its range of motion. By taking it through its range of motion, by stretching.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
by stretching. You don't have to stretch every day, but it doesn't hurt if you do. So unlike strengthening, where it's good to have a day off, with resistive exercise, you can do it every other day, or you might do upper body on Monday and Wednesday and lower body on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can break it up that way. The stretches, you can do it every day of the week. It's fine, but you don't have to. But at least a couple of times a week, you want to take things through their range. I can do this with active exercises, with mats. If getting on and off the floor is tough, you can do a lot of these things in a seated position in your chair. And it's not a bad thing either to kind of test yourself. So if I'm sitting, can I, without bending my back, do something like reach my shoe? Can I touch my toe? And when you start to kind of assess yourself, and go in, and I could do that a few months ago, and now I can't. My arms are too short. Oh.
Good effort now.
That one, I heard that. Oh, no, that's not how it is. You don't want to wake up one day and go up.
Right.
My shoes. But so things like that, or if you're standing against the wall, every now and then, it's a good idea to just go, can I touch the wall with my arm? Or am I here now? You know, can I bring my shoulders back and touch the wall? Or is this my new position?
Yeah.
So it's great to kind of check yourself. Physicians don't always look at flexibility. Physical therapists were crazy about it. And those are always the things we're looking at. But they're checking your vital signs and measuring your weight and doing all the really important scans. But we think the flexibility and strength and things like that would be important ones as well. Yoga. I don't know if anybody takes a yoga class or a senior yoga class.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great way to work on flexibility. And you don't have to think that every yoga class gets you on the floor. Many of them can be done in sitting and in standing. So it's great to just observe a class, like go to a place and just say, let's check it out and see what you're doing to see if it looks like something I would like to do. And for strength and balance and resistance, certainly aquatics. Do we have any aquatic exercises here? That's one of my favorites. You can do it all there. And if you fall in the water, guess what? It's fine. It's wonderful because it makes you braver. And in balance training, it's really important to be braver so that you take challenges. Otherwise, it doesn't get better. And water is a great place to do that. A little bit chilly sometimes, depending on where you're exercising. I've wanted to wear like a, deep water suit in some of the pools I've been in. Like it or not, over 65, more likely to have a fall. And as much as we love working with you in the hospital and in the rehab centers and at home and in the outpatient clinics, and we will do everything in our power to help you get back to where you were, I would so much rather talk with you about fall prevention and not have it happen. And there are certainly things to look at with regard to that. Some of it more medical, some is getting your eyes checked every year. Some is getting your hearing checked because hearing affects balance. Vestibular system can cause dizziness, that affects your balance. Your strength and your flexibility impact balance. Fear of falling can increase after you've had a fall. It's called fear avoidance. Well, I fell, so I'm not going into that shopping mall again. Okay, I'm just gonna stay home. Well, right, now you're gonna get weaker. Now you're gonna get joints that are stiffer. So I don't want that to happen either. And if that has happened, that's where you want to go in for some balance retraining. Don't be satisfied with it. Okay? All right, so look at this gentleman over here. He's standing on one leg. He's got his arms crossed. It's okay. When do I ever do this? During the course of my day. When am I on one foot? How about every time you take a step? Every time I walk, I'm on one foot. Whether it's backwards, sidewards, one foot. A large part of the walking cycle, the gait cycle, you're on one foot. So if he's training in this way, that's why. He's training with a changing base of support. So maybe 1 foot is too hard for me, but what happens if I, instead of standing with my feet like this, can I stand with my feet together and have a smaller base and feel stable? Can I stand with 1 foot in front of the other, or does that make me wobbly? And oh my gosh, what happens if I cross over? Do I lose my balance? So training in that way becomes really important. That's how we move. That's how we move. We don't like to stand an equal and not change. Get the dish out of the shelf now. This is how we do. It's like, okay, hurry, kind of better, right? So I want to work on that. Then over here, he's standing on, it looks like a deflated ball, and he's standing on a mat that looks something like this. It's just an air X, an air mattress. If you've had physical therapy, maybe for joint replacements or something, I bet you spent some time on there. And why? Like, because the world doesn't look like this floor. The world has
Spongeable.
it is.
Okay.
It is like a big thick foam, kind of a mattress sort of a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And if you have to walk outside here, you're gonna walk on a different surface, and there's a threshold here.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to your car, or wherever you're heading, you're gonna be walking on all kinds of surfaces, right? Well, think about your home. I've got carpeting, I've got tile, I've got hardwoods, I've got stairs, I've got a cat, this big. I've got uneven surfaces. If you look at the literature, there's a study that was done last year by Merlin et al., and they looked at emergency department visits. 70% of the falls for women occurred in the home, and over 60% for men in the home. What room do you think everybody was falling in? Bathroom and bedroom, right? Because it's on the way to the bathroom. Okay. You know what happens at night? I wear contacts, I wear glasses, but if I'm just getting up and just, I don't put them in, right? That's when these falls happen. Do you have night lights? You should, like all over the place. I think I have 8 night lights in my house. They're just a great idea. So he's working on balance training, right? And because he's just standing, he's doing it statically, but you know what? We don't move statically, we move, right? Does anybody take Tai Chi classes?
We did.
Are you, will you try it now? Totally, oh, yeah, totally. It's the perfect class, and in the literature, it's been shown over and over and over again to decrease your risk of falls and to improve your balance. Think about what it's asking you to do. No high impact, posture, mindfulness. And again, I want to reach for that dish over there because I'm chicken's cooking, right? What am I going to do? I'm going to take a step. I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to turn, which is a lot of steps. It's a lot of pieces, right? And that's just what you do in Tai Chi. You're going to break it apart. Now I'm going to move one thing. Now I'm going to move the other. Now I'm going to turn. Now I'm going to move my hands. That's how we live our lives. And it improves balance. So if there's a Tai Chi class in your area, every senior center almost has it now. It's a great program to work at.
Tai Chi is almost perfect for the thing we haven't talked about so far, which is this. It's not the fall, it counts as the landing.
It's the landing. Yes, it is the
So
landing.
if you can turn falling into rotation.
Yep.
That's most of the problem with landing.
Yes. Yes, and again, this comes with being well lit, that a lot of the things that happens with a fall is that you hit your head. You hit your head on the bureau in the bedroom, or on the vanity in the bathroom, things like that. So use the eyewear, use the lighting, because if you're falling and you hit a surface, that's also where a lot of people are gonna have problems and get injured and be in the emergency room. Bar classes, yoga classes, aquatic exercises as well, all are going to address this. Okay, what I strongly suggest is that you visit Steady. Steady is this EDC's website that has just a phenomenal amount of wonderful information designed for you. And one of the things that I did in my own home a couple of months ago was I went through the Steady checklist and said, I'm gonna go room to room in this house. My husband has arthritis, he has a hard time getting around. I said, let's just see what we can do here. Other than all the night lights, the house is lit up like Christmas. We did some simple things. I reworked the kitchen because one day I found myself reaching for a spice on the third shelf, standing on the kitchen chair in my stocking feet by myself. I'm 65, so I'm falling into this, and went, what the heck? I'm spending the day telling people not to do this. And then there was a closet near our kitchen where I opened the closet door and I found dinosaurs and I found Barbies and I found Matchbox cars and went, why is my pantry up here? And dinosaurs were weeks to go through it all, clear out that closet and turn it into my pantry. And I put all my favorite pots and pans and all the favorite things that I use. And I love my life in the kitchen now. I'm not crawling under the island for a lid, like none of that, it's over. Simple things like that. It cost me, the amount that it cost me to buy 3 of those little, we used to call them Lazy Susans.
Yeah.
3 little turntables at Home Goods, you know? $10 maybe, that saved me. It was perfect. That's what we needed to make the house more safe. We put one railing up as well. If you have like stairs to get to like the 2nd floor, we always had one rail on the right. We added a rail on the left. Oh my God, we should have done it 30 years ago. It's so lovely to have that 2nd rail. And you know, just making small changes. This is a great website that gives you all kinds of ways of just checking your house out. See, because we want to get you before the fall, not after the fall. The last type of exercise you want to include in your lifestyle is cardiorespiratory. Some people call it aerobic, some people call it cardiopulmonary, some people call it cardio. But if it's cardiorespiratory, it's exercising your heart, which is a muscle, and it's working on your better oxygenation for your lungs. And what do we got to do for that? Well, according to the American College of Sports Medicine, moderate intensity, 150 minutes a week. It's not a lot of minutes. That number looks big. It's not a day, it's a week. If you divide it up, it's like 20 minutes. What is moderate intensity? Well, you can do that by finding your target heart rate, which is lots of formulas, not hard to do, but we won't take the time here. Or you can do it based on how much exertion it feels like to you. So if you feel like you're walking at a brisk enough pace that you can still sing a song or have a conversation with somebody, I'm not strolling, I'm at it, then that's moderate. If you're jogging and you can only get a few words out, then that's more vigorous intensity. We're talking about moderate intensity here. It doesn't have to be jogging and walking. It could be water exercise. It could be a whole host of things. But a few things. You want to stay hydrated. You don't want to have any dizziness or chest pain or shortness of breath or anything like that. And you always want to have a little bit of a warm up. That's where you do a few of those stretches and then cool it down with a decrease in activity. regardless of the type that you have chosen to do. So if I'm out walking the dog, and thank goodness I have a cat, I couldn't keep up with her. Other than at night where she's flying on the stairs. If I'm out walking the dog and I pick a dog who likes to stop every 2 steps and visit other dogs and visit the neighbors and scope stuff out, I'm not getting a cardiorespiratory exercise here. I'm not increasing my heart rate. If I've got that dog that's gonna walk around the block with me and not stop, that's my walk. So know that just getting out there isn't enough. You know, if you're like intense at Walmart, that's one thing. If you're walking and you're looking, for me, it's Home Goods, I gotta tell you, if I'm like stopping and looking on every aisle, that's no cardiovascular. It has to be something that's continuous, right? So it could be a million things. It could be hiking, it could be biking. Dance classes with my patients who I can't get their feet to move, that they have like neuromotor, Parkinson's, some different types of neurological problems. I put Frank Sinatra on and they're like leading me. I have a lot of memories that, you know, neurological memories that bring that out. And so doing this to music or doing this to something that, you know, you remember is perfect. Water aerobics, certain sports, certainly pickleball, swimming, basketball. If it's golf, you can't go in the cart the entire time. Let your clubs go for the ride and see if you can do a little bit of the walking around the course. My mom didn't start golf till she was 68 years old. She got a hole in one when she was 72. But you know what? What was the best thing about the golf? It was a public course. She joined a senior league. She made these great friends. They played cards. They went and had Sunday brunch together. They golfed a few days a week. It just changed her completely because it gave her this social life with these wonderful people, wonderful women, in addition to the walking that she was doing. And she just would take like the clubs she needed and a little pull cart. But it's fine to put your clubs in a motorized cart, but you gotta do a little bit of walking. We call it cardio. So where? Well, it depends on how and what you're starting from. I don't know if you know this or not, but it sounds like you're all such exercises, I bet you do, is that you check your Medicare Advantage plan because Silver Sneakers could be covered under that Medicare Advantage plan, which means you can go to the YMCA's and the Planet Fitnesses and these fitness facilities that participate in it at no cost. You can use the equipment, use the swimming pool, use the weights, you know, partake in the classes, and it's at no cost if that's part of your plan. And that is something that a lot of folks do in our area for sure. Silver Sneakers also put together a giant host of videos. If you kind of want to start and do things at home, or if it's a snowy, icy day, YouTube, again, for free. And I've seen at least 20 of their videos. Some are dance, some are Tai Chi, some are strengthening, some are flexibility, some are 10 minutes, some are 30 minutes. There's this wide range that are easy to access on your TV and just pop it up on YouTube. Personal trainers, more and more personal trainers are out there in their private practices. If you are going to a place like Planet Fitness or the Y, they always have personal trainers who will answer your questions and help you get going and get started and see if you're making progress. I checked the schedule on our senior center and our community last week, and they had all of these exercise classes, the whole kind of list of them. It's great, and again, they're not charging it for some folks who need the transportation. They just pick people up in a van. It's pretty wonderful. And they do also have some structured evidence-based exercise classes, like 6-week programs that are designed specifically to include a lot of education about fall prevention. So those are out there as well. I've added a couple of things down here, like a lake, not so much for swimming. But I know in my community, I live right near a lake where community rowing is extremely popular with older adults. They love going out as, you know, it's early in the morning, sun's rising. They again make teams for themselves, 4 people in a boat, and do the ergometry and can't get them to stop. Some of them went on to buy an ergometer for the home so that they could do it during the winter, because you lose a lot of months when it comes to living around Boston. But that's an option as well. So my bottom line to you is to find what you like to do, but also try to include these different elements, because each one is going to be so important to that active, healthy lifestyle that you want to How to start if you really have questions, if you have a lot of comorbidities, if you have concerns about starting this on your own, then you certainly can consult with one of us, a physical therapist. Your doctor can make the referral or you can do it directly, either way. Physicians are great at doing the important tests. They're going to do the pap smear and the mammogram and the colonoscopy and all the things that we need, the EKG and the whole realm. We don't look at that as much as we look at this. We do the test for strength and flexibility and balance and endurance. That's what we're most interested in. And so we can help you structure a program as well. So just so that you know that we are out there and that we can help you with some guidance if you feel like you need more information. This is just a sheet of information that gives you some information on exercise from some very reliable sources. National Council on Aging has a great website. They also have a bunch of continuing ed kind of seminars and things that they do. Again, usually no cost. They provide so much valuable information. National Institutes of Health as well. And then for fall prevention, this is a nice fall prevention checklist that's on here. You can do it right online. The National Council on Aging's Falls Free Checkup. And all of these are great sources in terms of fall prevention. And then these are the types of programs I just picked up that Steady has for home, YouTube videos. They have resistive, they have stretching, Tai Chi, dance, walk a mile at your home, walk a mile in your shoes kind of thing. There's so much available out there. And the ones that are designed by Silver Sneakers, again, it's a very reputable source. When you go on YouTube, you could come up with all kinds of things that may or may not be safe. These are my additional resources. So if you have questions.
Cool. Well, how do we have time? So don't we start a little bit?
We're just at time, so, but I will watch you up. Does anybody here have desperate travel plans, like a ticket or anything? Okay, great. Go, Tim.
I'll be very quick. I was just literally tying it all together. But before I do that, can we just give a round of applause for our two? So as I shared with the group from the beginning, I'm a native New Yorker, so I was taught at a very young age, get to the point, all right? Speak loud. So I try to do my best. And this is where I just want to bring everything together. So we talked about kind of exercise, the importance, we talked about nutrition, but if I were to sum it up really simple, it's this. I would say that health is wealth and exercise and nutrition are medicine. But if we can find the most effective doses of that medicine, that's where we can really ensure longevity and healthy aging. And this is where I wanted to share a little story. My wife actually told me about this. So this is Joanne McDonald, and I'll read this out because I know it's very small, but basically this was a woman who is now a fitfluencer at age 80. So Joanne, when she was 75 years old, and she says here, 5 years ago, I was 5'3", 198 pounds. I had a 39-inch waist. I was on medication for high blood pressure and acid reflux. I had terrible edema in my ankles. My arthritis was extremely painful, and I had difficulty walking up and down the stairs. I was tired. I was emotional, and I was in desperate need of change. My daughter, Michelle, came to me on the verge of tears. She said that I had to make a choice. She said if I continued on this path, I would end up even worse off and probably on more medication. So with the support and guidance of Michelle and a team of women, I made a massive 180. I learned how to use an iPhone for the first time. I renewed my gym membership. I bought a food scale, a measurement tape, and I got to work. It was incredibly hard, let me tell you. And there were many days where I was on tears over the technology, but I never threw in the towel. However, I stuck to my guns and never gave up. My motto was, I don't mind if the changes are slow. I am going to go at my own pace, and this time the changes are going to last for the rest of my life. And what's amazing is, and this is what we're seeing in just some of the research that we've been discussing, is now fast forward, and you can find videos of her online and on YouTube. She is doing exercises and moving better than some of the 20-year-olds that I've worked with. We are quite literally seeing her muscle tissue changing. So this is another thing we've discussed up to this point, the importance of all forms of movement, because movement is also medicine. That's another great way I like to say that. But as we also said too, there are different things that we should be emphasizing. So let me just ask the group this. Here's a little riddle I always like to ask my students in exercise science, and I have some amazing wisdom and knowledge in this room. Little riddle to begin. Aside from fire, the wheel, and the printing press. Can anyone else name one of the greatest feats of ingenuity that we have created as humankind? I'll give you a hint. Einstein said it is the 10th wonder of the world, and I believe the quote is, for people that know it, they benefit. For those that don't, they pay for it. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I'll tell you right now, compound interest. That's why I always get for extra credit, my young 19, 20-year-olds, and they always look at me like I have 3 heads. A lot of them for my senior capstone class, I say extra credit, you open an investment account and you start depositing towards that.
Roll of 72.
Exactly. So yes,
Double your
we
money.
see that money doubling every 7 years. I also tell them that when the time comes, I get to stay in your beach house. The whole point, and I actually show this to them mathematically, is that it's not a matter of if, but when they become a millionaire. Now, the reason I use this finance analogy is if we can think of our muscle tissue, our skeletal muscle is the ultimate compound vehicle of your health. And how do we fuel that investment? We get adequate protein. We engage in resistance training because we are understanding more than ever, and I'll share this in a matter of moments, that muscle tissue is more than just movement. It is the largest endocrine organ in our human body. Hormones, the way we metabolize certain nutrients. When we exercise, we release these compounds known as myokines. They actually have anti-inflammatory compounds. This is another reason why doing things like resistance training, Tai Chi, all of this not only just makes you look better and feel better, but at the cellular level, it actually helps in terms of energy, vitality. And we're also starting to see even, and this is where I'm going down the rabbit hole and I'm taking my biology colleagues out for coffees to help understand the science, but we're seeing even at the DNA transcription level, that when we engage in things like resistance training and epigenetics, we're actually changing the way that our genes are expressing themselves. And we're just starting to scratch the surface as a scientific community. But this is why I tell folks, movement is medicine. But if we can prioritize the protein, if we can prioritize eating whole foods, if we can prioritize moving our bodies, but ensuring that we are also loading our skeleton, you're going to get some amazing results. And I think we can see that, Joan is living proof of this too. So I'm an academic, so I always have to reference, all right, just like my colleagues too. So we're not making this stuff up. And that's why we've also said that it's evidence-based practice or evidence-informed practice as well. But I think also people always ask me, like, where should I look? Should I get some more information? And these are just some prominent folks that are kind of doing the rounds. One of them is Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She's a doctor of osteopathic medicine. This is Dr. Stacy Sims. They both specialize in healthy aging and longevity. They look at the literature. They look at the research. They have colleagues that are doing the research. And they're not saying anything new. But just like Leanne said yesterday during the brunch, they're just saying it different. And I think that's what's really kind of making folks kind of start to take notice. And that's what we're excited about as a scientific community. But I think another cool thing too that I want to kind of share is you can see that our colleagues, and here as a community at Simmons, we're also very much looking at this and we're interested. So we have colleagues that are also looking at the role of muscle tissue in medicine and understanding how it's contributing. I've been so lucky to work with Jackie, and together we've been doing some projects combining our nutrition curriculums with our exercise science curriculums. She's been helping me look at the evidence and try to understand some of the research behind it. And what's really cool is bringing it back to Dr. Line and the other slide. Well, she's taken interest in one of our students. So it's really amazing. And this is just a message to her. I have a student I'm looking at right now who's investigating the role of muscle tissue, the role of protein, the role of healthy movement and aging. And she said to Emily, I'm incredibly thrilled and grateful that you see the importance of this thing called muscle-centric medicine and its impact on the world. We need young leaders like you to move this message forward. We're here if we have any questions. And I wanted to share this because I think we also appreciate the power of community and story. That's what makes Simmons so special. And I just wanted to make sure that that featured in this as well, because you're all part of that story. And our students are part of that story and that legacy. And this is why I think as a group, we're just so honored and thrilled to again be here and not only share our experience and knowledge with you, but to continue to contribute to that. Because health is wealth, exercise is medicine, nutrition is medicine. And if we can all contribute to that narrative, we're going to be able to keep the story going. So I want to thank each of you for all your help and support. So it's our chance to give you a little round of applause. Like we said, if we have time, we're happy to take some questions as a collective.
I'm from New York, so I'll get to the point. What is exercise science? It didn't exist. And do you have a lot of students that need people to interview for surveys they're taking, because one of the most painful things I did at Simmons was to stand in the cafeteria line while we were waiting and take, for a survey course I had to take, so I'm sure there are a lot of alumni who would be very happy to answer student questionnaires if they want, things like that. I mean, you forget we're out here. And since I had to do it, I'm very happy to, pay it forward to those kids.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, thank you so much for that generosity. And I can even say, the student who I just referenced, I know is looking to actually conduct interviews, and we're hoping to build her project out further and look at different populations and different demographics. So I'll absolutely feed that information, because yeah, I think this is something we're trying to get a better understanding of just as a scientific community. Not only how can we do a better job of serving our own alumni and serving Simmons, but if we can be part of this pioneering narrative, if we can help really continue to put Simmons on the map in terms of this healthy aging and longevity narrative, well, that's something I know that I think we'd all be really excited to be a part of. So that's amazing. And yes, thank you. Of course.
What do you think of this whole 10,000 steps a day theory?
You want to start with that?
How many steps are you taking? How fast are you taking them? What's the intensity? It's not just about how many steps. You get the watch and you're keeping track and okay, I got one too. And I could go 10 miles and it will tell me I haven't done enough.
Yeah.
It's not just about the steps that you're taking, because I could take those steps at a very slow intensity and not be contributing to my cardiorespiratory health.
Yeah.
As much as you think it is. So I wouldn't rely as strongly on the number or on what the watch is telling you at the end of the day. It's, do you have all the pieces that you need? And are you progressing? Are you progressing either in how fast you're going or the length of time, not just did I actually complete the 10,000 steps today? I think there are pieces to that.
So, about increasing the weights.
Yeah.
Like, I've been on the same weights for so many years, and it's the same. I mean, the last 2 or 3, this is hard, I keep thinking when I start, oh, I can do a heavier weight, but then it's this, and I said, am I just preventing worse outcomes or?
Yes, all right, I'm gonna say yes to that, because if you weren't doing any resistive exercise, again, the muscle wasting would catch up with you. Are you doing the nutrition that you need in order to make progress? So that could have an impact. Do you have enough of the protein that's fueling those muscles to be able to continue to do that? Because I've definitely seen that for some patients, is that when we sit down and kind of go, wow, things aren't changing a whole lot, and then I find out what their diet is, it's like, okay, so we have a missing piece here. So sometimes it's about bringing the two together as to why you're not able to do it more challenging.
Okay, so I'm 76, I do 10 to 12,000 steps a day, 3.5 miles an hour.
Okay,
It feels fast enough.
all right. And if you're feeling that level of exertion when you're doing it, then that's what we're looking for, that moderate level of exertion.
I shovel snow, does that count?
And I think just on the narrative of trackers, because we are seeing, again, as technology and exercise, nutrition, and all these things continue to kind of come together, it's just understanding that just like anything, it's a tool. So yes, we applaud the fact if the trackers are working and you're getting those steps in and you're doing it at a vigorous intensity and you're challenging yourself, however that looks, that's amazing. But I know one of the challenges back to resistance training, and Joanne brought up a great point, and I've seen this firsthand. If you do say a resistance training exercise activity, you'll look at your watch and it says you haven't really done anything. Or it will say you've only burned about 60 calories. And you might think, well, that's not very effective. But what it's not saying is through that resistance training, you're building lean muscle tissue. You're actually facilitating a greater metabolic intensity. You're improving your basal metabolic rate. So there's all these residuals that watch isn't going to necessarily capture. So we're not saying that, ignore it, or we're not saying that those steps aren't themselves beneficial. It's just also being understanding of the larger kind of health narrative too.
What about, there was some talk about alternating, like
like walking really fast or jogging for so long and then walking slower.
Okay.
And then another burst of energy and then walking slower, sort of like a cyclical thing.
Sure, and I believe that that is called fart loop training, I think is kind of one of the terminologies. So it's someone, I think, we're Legion researcher, I could be making this up.
Yeah.
But I think it was of that, but yeah, we're talking about various intensities, and you can do that whether it's just like a brisk walk and then you slow down. I mean, some people do it for a specified distance, or it can even be, I'm gonna walk to that tree as fast as I can, then I'm gonna walk to the next tree really slow. And I think if we kind of look at that as a composite, it can be a great way to kind of challenge yourself to get through those different kind of heart rates. And also we see that generally speaking from an exercise standpoint, there is an inverse relationship between intensity and duration. So just put another way, if you're able to go at a brisker pace, you don't necessarily have to do as much to get those same benefits. But this is a great way, and I love that because it keeps it novel. So, you know, just like we said, if you start to find yourself being bored, we tend not to do that type of activity. But that could be a great way of breaking up that monotony and also just making it interesting. So yeah, I love that.
For osteoporosis, to avoid taking medication, which is where I'm at. And, you know, to strength, eating more calcium, I mean, is there a combination or does it not work? Weight bearing exercise is one of the best things that you can do. Eat osteoporosis, again, it depends on your scores and your levels on your bone mineral density. But it's been really demonstrated that, let's say the difference was I'm going to exercise for a half hour in the water. I'm not going to exercise at all, or I'm going to exercise in walking, something that's weight bearing. When it comes to bone density, the walking will win. The aquatic exercise is better than no exercise, but anything that's weight bearing is going to be more. And we tend to not do enough resistance training or weight bearing with osteoporosis because you think, well, what's the limit? I don't want to break anything. But actually, it's better to do it. There are some positions you might need to avoid. That's where like a consult could help and say, okay, it's good to do it this way, but not that way. But weight bearing exercise is one of the most important things you can do with osteoporosis.
And you have to eat enough calcium and vitamin D. And if you don't, what a lot of people don't realize, we just think of calcium in bones, right? Well, the bones are really just a reservoir of the calcium. We need a certain amount of calcium to make our muscles flex and to just have our overall biochemistry function. And your blood takes precedence. So if you're not eating enough calcium, your blood is going to get it from the bones. And that's where you get those holes from osteoporosis. And I would say, don't necessarily avoid the medication. It's really hard, especially if you live in New England, to get enough vitamin D, to get enough calcium. So I would encourage you to make sure your diet's there, but if not, don't hesitate because it can help.
And if you're taking an anti-reflux medicine, have to take calcium because that medicine, I think, leaches a little bit of calcium out of yours.
That's a great
And I will tell you, my GI guy never said anything about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're there.
Yeah.
One more.
Really.
The role of folate, I had heard that in certain vitamins, you kind of need to add folate to get the full benefit of that initial vitamin. And I know when you were, with those of us that were pregnant at one time, folic acid was a big thing to have during that period, but like biotin and B12, and calcium, does the folate help you absorb those?
The folate is a micronutrient superstar in and of itself. Green leafy vegetables. You can avoid having something called macrocytic anemia if you get enough folate and B12. Those are the two anemia nutrients besides iron that we have to pay attention to. Green leafy vegetables or fortified cereals and breads have folate too.
Well, listen, thank you so much.
How do we get a copy of the presentation? Somebody mentioned it's gonna be available.
This has been recorded on Zoom. If you're on the Simmons network, we will be reposting it there. Sure. Is anybody missing their gift?
So I.
I know, first of all, now
Oh,
you're
well, I
not.
should, my family now lives in Saratoga.
Oh, really?
Oh, next week.
Anybody who's got the settled to that bit,
I know.
Someone